There are two types of people in this world: those obsessed with the fifth element and those who have no idea what they're missing. Here are 15 wild facts that explain how this insane sci-fi movie went from a box office gamble to a cult classic. 1. It was the most expensive European film ever made. Let's start with the money. In 1997, The Fifth Element was a French film. It was independently financed, largely from Europe, and it cost over $90 million to make. To put that in perspective, Titanic came out the same year with a budget of $200 million. But that was James Cameron, with American studios backing him. For a French space fantasy with flying cars, blue opera aliens, and a weirdly pervy priest, this kind of budget was unimaginable. No one had ever handed this much money to a French director to make a sci-fi epic before. And that director was Luc Besson, who up until then was best known for Léon, The Professional, and La Femme Nikita. Both gritty, grounded stories. Not this. But he wasn't just trying to make a movie. He was trying to build a world he'd been dreaming about since he was a teenager. 2. Luc Besson made the hero a taxi driver to honor his dad. Most sci-fi heroes are soldiers, or chosen ones. But Korben Dallas was a cab driver in New York, in the 23rd century. This wasn't a random choice. Luc Besson's father was a taxi driver in Paris, and when Besson sat down to rework the script, he realized that making Korben a regular guy, a working-class dude just trying to survive in life, would make the story feel more grounded and relatable. It's a small detail, but when you look back, it's that decision that makes the movie's stakes feel real. Korben isn't a superhero. He's a guy with bad luck, no money, and a cat waiting for him at home. Just like us. 3. The design team included legendary comic artists Moebius and Mézières. How do you build a futuristic world that feels alive? You call in legends. Luc Besson hired Jean Giraud, better known as Moebius, and Jean-Claude Mézières, both iconic French comic book artists. These were the guys who helped define European sci-fi and fantasy illustration for decades. Their fingerprints are all over The Fifth Element. Do you remember those flying taxis in the movie? Mézières literally drew them years earlier in his comic Valerian and Laureline. The Mondoshawans, those giant golden alien turtles, are classic works of Moebius. The vertical layout of future New York with the rebellious blend of colors, tech, and grit are all straight out of their imagination. In fact, a lot of people noticed how The Fifth Element looked suspiciously like Blade Runner on acid. But it's actually the other way around. Ridley Scott was also influenced by Moebius and Mézières. They shaped the visual DNA of sci-fi long before CGI could bring it to life. 4. Milla Jovovich spoke a 400-word alien language. You probably remember Leeloo's first few scenes, wide-eyed, orange-haired, barely verbal. Then suddenly, she starts speaking an entirely different language. But actually, this was not gibberish or random sounds. It was an actual language, with over 400 words created by Milla Jovovich and Luc Besson themselves. They even had full-on conversations in it off-camera. Leeloo's alien tongue, known in the script as the divine language, was basically a custom Esperanto designed to sound ancient, beautiful, and strange. Milla practiced it for months. 5. The Diva Dance scene was considered unsingable. Do you remember that opera scene? That blue alien with giant head tentacles and a long, flowing gown? Suddenly, she opens her mouth, and out comes a voice so alien, it literally defies physics. That wasn't a mistake. Composer Eric Serra intentionally wrote the notes to be impossible for a human to sing in one take. Some jumps spanned several octaves in milliseconds, literally beyond human vocal range. So how'd they do it? The opera singer, Inva Mula, pre-recorded all the vocal parts separately. Then the production stitched them together digitally. That's why the Diva Dance sounds so robotic and otherworldly. It's not just alien music, it's a piece of sonic sci-fi. But here's the weirdest part. When Milla Jovovich heard the final track for the first time, she actually cried. That's how strange and beautiful it sounded. But that's not the only moment Besson kept secret from the cast. 6. Plavalaguna's reveal was a reality-shattering surprise. Luc Besson didn't just hide the design of the blue alien diva, he hid the entire actress playing her from the cast. When she walked on set in full costume for the first time, complete with blue skin, tentacle hair, and glowing contact lenses, no one was prepared. That's why the actors' reactions in the scene, the double takes, the stunned silence, even the gasps, are 100% real. Besson wanted the moment to feel alien not just to the audience, but to the characters themselves. He didn't even let extras see her before cameras rolled. And it worked. That performance became one of the most iconic and surreal moments in the entire film. 7. Ruby Rhod was inspired by Prince. There's flamboyant, and then there's Ruby Rhod, screaming into a golden microphone, wearing leopard print bodysuits and cooing like a cartoon character. Chris Tucker's performance as Ruby was unforgettable. But did you know the role was originally written for Prince? Yes, the Prince. Luc Besson envisioned Ruby as a gender-fluid glam rock icon. And Prince, in many ways, was that character in real life. So the role was offered to him first. But he turned it down. Not because of the script or performance, because of the costumes. Prince reportedly looked at Jean Paul Gaultier's early designs and said, "Nope, too much. Let that sink in." Prince, the man who wore buttless chaps at the VMAs, thought these outfits were over the line. So Besson went to Chris Tucker, fresh off Friday. Tucker said yes, and the rest is fashion history. Also, Chris modeled Ruby's high-pitched voice and eccentric energy directly off of Prince anyway, so, in a way, we still got both. 8. The costumes were designed by Jean Paul Gaultier. Speaking of outfits, the Fifth Element didn't just have good costumes. It had 1,000 custom-designed looks created by one of fashion's most outrageous icons. French designer Jean Paul Gaultier handled the entire wardrobe, from Leeloo's iconic white thermal straps to Ruby Rhod's mic staff onesie. But here's the wild part. He didn't just design costumes for the main cast. Gaultier personally oversaw every single extra at the spaceport. Yep, all those background characters with giant headpieces, transparent skirts, futuristic mesh suits are custom-made. There are no reused Star Trek outfits here. He even did full fittings with each extra to make sure the clothes told a story, like that one woman in the leopard print space nun uniform. Why? Because in Besson and Gaultier's world, the future was loud, expressive, and unapologetically weird. 9. Luc Besson married Leeloo. After filming, you heard it right. The on-screen chemistry between Korben Dallas and Leeloo wasn't acting. During the making of the film, Luc Besson and Milla Jovovich fell in love. She was only 21, and this was her biggest role yet. He was 38 and already one of France's top directors. By the time filming ended, they were engaged. They got married right after the movie premiered. The divine language, the intense stares, it all had real emotional weight behind it. But like many Hollywood romances, it didn't last. They divorced just 2 years later. Still, their whirlwind love story added a strange layer to the film's legacy. A space opera love story, both on and off screen. But not everyone on set was enjoying a cosmic love story. Behind the scenes, some actors were literally suffering for their roles. 10. The Mondoshawan suits were so hot, extras passed out. Those big golden alien creatures, the Mondoshawans, look cool, sure, but filming them was a nightmare. The suits were made of thick fiberglass and rubber. They had zero ventilation, no cooling systems, and were completely sealed from the outside. Several extras inside those suits fainted during filming because the heat built up to over 40 degrees Celsius inside, and they couldn't get out without help. One actor said they could only wear the suit for about 15 minutes before overheating became dangerous. After that, The costume team had to literally pry them out like they were being birthed from an alien shell. Besson later said if he could redo one thing, it would have been making those suits wearable by humans. And just when you think the production couldn't get any weirder, the film's first ever screening nearly ended in disaster. 11. The film was booed at Cannes, then got a standing ovation. And now, here's something no one tells you. The Fifth Element premiered at the Cannes Film Festival. And when it screened, people booed. For the first few minutes, critics weren't having it. They rolled their eyes at the over-the-top visuals, the weird humor, the alien dance numbers. Some even walked out. But by the end, it got a standing ovation. So what changed in between? Simple. The film was committed. It didn't try to be cool or restrained. It leaned into its weirdness so hard that it won people over. You could hear the moment the audience gave in and decided to just enjoy the ride. That's the legacy of The Fifth Element in a nutshell. Hated at first, adored later. A cult classic born out of total creative chaos. 12. Leeloo's full name has 23 letters. If you ever thought Leeloo's full name was just some sci-fi mumbo-jumbo, you're mostly right. But it does have a full version, written out in the original script. Leeloo Minai Lekatariba Lamina Chai Ekbat De Sebat. That's 23 letters, multiple syllables, and absolutely zero chance of spelling it right on the first try. Jovovich trained to say it perfectly in one take. And no, it's not just random sounds. Each part of the name was supposedly rooted in ancient alien-sounding syllables that matched the cadence of real languages. Still, if you can pronounce it 3 times fast, you deserve your own multi-pass. 13th. Korben Dallas is named after a French street. This one's simple but sweet. The name Korben Dallas sounds like some gritty American anti-hero, right? But it actually comes from Rue Korben, a tiny street in Luc Besson's childhood neighborhood in Paris. Dallas was added to make it sound more Western, but the Korben part was a subtle tribute to the place that raised him. For all its outer space madness, The Fifth Element is full of little personal touches like this. Street names, occupations, even the food truck scene. They're all borrowed from Luc's real life, and that's what grounds the story, even when aliens are dropping opera CDs on your lap. 14. The film was meant to start a trilogy. For all its unrealistic weird energy, The Fifth Element was never meant to be a one and done. Luc Besson originally planned it as part of a 3-part epic. He'd written the story when he was a teenager, long before he had a budget, cast, or studio backing. The world was massive, full of alien races, ancient tech, space politics, and weird future religions. But after the film came out, he dropped it. Right after The Fifth Element, Besson cast Milla Jovovich again, this time as Joan of Arc, in a dark historical drama named The Messenger. But unlike their first film, The Messenger bombed. Critics hated it, audiences ignored it, and the studio lost money. That failure soured Besson on making another high-risk movie, especially one as expensive and risky as a sci-fi sequel. So the trilogy was scrapped. Still, pieces of that expanded universe ended up inspiring other works, from Valerian and the City of 1,000 Planets, which Besson made years later, to fan-made comics and games. In another timeline, we got 2 more Fifth Element films. In this one, we just got one. But maybe that's why it became a legend. 15. It's now taught in film schools as a visual style case study. When The Fifth Element first hit theaters, critics were split. Some praised its imagination. Others said it was style over substance. A lot of them just didn't know what to make of it. Fast forward to today, it's taught in film schools and design academies around the world. Why? Because visually, The Fifth Element is a masterclass in world building through design. Everything from the color-coded costumes to the cityscapes to the alien glyphs and strange interfaces is working together to tell you something about the future. The style is the story. There's a reason people still dress up as Leeloo or Ruby Rhod at conventions. or why designers reference the film's color palettes and costume silhouettes in runway shows. Whether you love the movie or hate it, you remember it. And that's the power of visual storytelling at its boldest. So that's it. When we think about how weird the idea of this film is, Fifth Element shouldn't have really worked. But it did. Because it didn't try to play it safe. It believed in its own weirdness. And over time, it became more than just a movie. You might have laughed at it, cringed at it. But one thing's for sure. The Fifth Element left Earth orbit and landed in cinema history. So, do you know more weird facts about this movie? Share them in the comments. And if you want more mind-blowing movie facts from the stranger side of the film, hit subscribe. Thanks for watching.